Two Hats family, welcome back to episode 6 of the Two Hats podcast, a community corrections, probation, parole, juvenile probation, pretrial services podcast. I'm your host, Chris, the tactical probation officer, and my wonderful co-host.
It's Brittany, your favorite PO.
And we're back with another great episode for you guys. So today's topic is how has COVID-19, aka the Rona, affected how we do our jobs as probation and parole officers. We have a great interview for you guys today with Eric. He's a probation officer. He's fairly new. I think he has less than 3 years on the job, so that'll be definitely interesting to hear how he likes this field. And we're also going to talk about how COVID-19 has affected his job, how they do everything where he's at. So definitely stay tuned to the interview, and I hope you guys enjoy. All right, Two Hats family, we have Eric. He is our third guest who is a probation officer in Ohio. So Ohio is pretty popular on this podcast. We appreciate you coming here, Eric. We're going to start off with, we have 2 standard questions that we ask everyone. On the Two Hats scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being a social worker and 10 being a cop, where does your department fall on the Two Hat scale?
I'll say we fall right in the middle with a 5.
5 is good. 5 is good.
What made you decide to get into the probation field in general?
It's kind of funny because I went to college to be either a deputy or some kind of other LEO and fell into a corrections job at a county jail. And they kind of found me, the probation office found me. And I was like, that sounds kind of cool. So I checked it out and I don't want to do anything else now. I actually just had my 1 year Saturday.
1 year? Oh, you're a baby. Okay.
Yeah.
we got a newbie over here.
Yeah. The rookie that screws it all up. So be ready.
2020 with COVID quarantine, like how has that experience been for you?
It's been a roller coaster, I can tell you that. It started out with, am I even going to keep this job? Are they going to be able to keep me? To, am I going to come to work one day and be told to stay home for 2 weeks, 2 months, or forever? It was really unexpected each day going in. It was really questioning myself if I was going to maintain my position or my health.
Now, are you back in the office full time? Are you seeing offenders in your office full time?
Yeah, we actually never shut the office down. We just limited our hours. We worked what we called skeleton crews, about 3 shifts with about 3 different officers, and they work about 3 hours of the day. I was in the afternoon one from 1:30 to 4:30 p.m. And so I had to squeeze in my 10 people a day in that small gap. But yeah, we never shut down the office. We just stopped field visits, which resulted in a lot of warrants being written out because people don't like to come see your probation officer.
That's true.
So you were saying that you guys were working in shifts. So if you're only in the office for 3 hours, what else do they expect you to do in the other 5 hours of your shift?
We were at home and we would keep notes on either our work phone or on our laptop if we had one, and get into the system that we use there. Make calls, get updates over the phone. If one of our probationers did end up quarantined from having the corona or being exposed, we had to make sure we noted that and counted the days that they would be off quarantine to make sure they get back in there, back on track. So a lot of it was the organizing at home and then seeing your people in the office.
I gotta say, I'm pretty jealous, actually, of you and Brittany. I believe Brittany was able to work at home. We were never able to work at home. It was either in the office or in the field. But where I'm at, they're actually encouraging us to be out in the field more. All our monthly contacts, they actually want us to do them at the offender's house, outside, of course, more than 6 feet away, and then do it that way. And then for a period of time, we weren't even allowed to go into their homes at all. So it was actually, definitely adjusting to, coronavirus and the precautions is trying to be safe has definitely been a challenge, I think, for everyone in the field. How about you, Brittany? How was your experience with having to deal with the Rona?
Well, for us, we didn't have to make field contact at all for regular line officers. So we were strictly 8 hours at home, just calling everybody over the phone. And then they transitioned us to go back to the office, but we still were not seeing offenders in the office. It was still over the phone. And for I think it was like for 4 months, we didn't do any field visits. And so as far as urinalysis goes or drug tests go, the offenders still had to do that. I know in some adjacent counties to mine, the offenders were not even taking drug tests. So everybody was going crazy out there. Free game,
Living their best lives out there.
Yeah, with the 3-hour gap in the office, that's what we did, was a lot of testing.
Yeah, a lot of testing. But what kind of precautions did you guys take in the office?
We actually hired a cleaning crew to come through, kind of like what they're doing at the schools, coming in, spraying all that disinfectant stuff. We had to wipe down all of our desks, all that, carry our own pens, because we kind of just had pens laying around for everybody to use, but carry your own pens, maintain 6 feet away from each other. Same with the clients. Don't bring them into the actual office, keep them in the lobby unless you absolutely need to see them. We weren't required to wear masks in there, so we could smell the odor of any kind of alcohol or drugs. Just really kept that distance and made sure we washed our hands after every interaction. We had hand sanitizer, like probably every square inch of the building. So we're really precautious, and knock on wood, nobody's gotten it or anything like that at all.
So you're saying you guys didn't require them to wear masks at all?
Yeah, unless we went out to the field.
Wow. So you're in an enclosed area with somebody that could have it and you wouldn't know, and you guys didn't require them to wear masks at all. That sounds crazy.
Yeah, we'd take their temperature with one of those thermometer guns through the glass before they came back.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you guys haven't had any outbreaks and haven't had anybody who get it. Do you guys have a policy of what happens if somebody in your office does test positive?
Yeah, so we have every officer had 80 hours, I guess, COVID leave, I guess you can call it. It doesn't take out of your vacation or sick or anything like that. So if you did have to quarantine for 2 weeks, you were covered. We are just now getting back into the field work.
Well, tell me more about that.
Well, it's started out with the judges telling us, no field work. We don't want you out in the field at all. And then they also told us no arrests unless it was absolutely necessary. So my 2 people I had in there for dirty urines magically got put back out and then didn't want to report. So it was kind of like thanks. I had them locked up for a reason, but, got to do what you got to do, I guess. They kicked over 200 people out of the jail. So as the field work went on, we would go out looking for people and have our masks and our gloves on and eye protection. And when we knock at the door, we would have to stay 6 feet away from the door when they open it, which was kind of weird and difficult. They'd kind of open the door and realize nobody was there. And we're like, wait a minute, we're over here. And, knocking through windows and just talk to them through the window. We've done that a couple of times. We haven't gone inside any houses yet.
I would love to see a video of this with the mask and the.
Yeah, you get some weird looks.
Now, do you guys do what is it? What's the word I'm looking for, Chris? Scheduled visits, or are they just random?
We do both. We have scheduled visits for our more low risk offenders. Our high risk offenders, they have scheduled visits along with random. It's a call-in system. They have to call in before 9 a.m. every morning, and it will tell them, you're scheduled to report today or not. And actually this month we are getting an eye scanner installed, and it can be used to tip you if they're using any drugs or anything illegal. It scans their iris and it'll tell you if they potentially have drugs in their system, which could lead to us testing them urine wise.
Wow, I've never heard of that before. I feel like a defense attorney would have like a field day with that.
Well, can't wait to see how that works out. But that's going to have a call-in system as well. The reason we got that was just to limit even more contact. They walk up to the machine, type in their last four of the social or whatever it is, and it scans their iris, and on the other side, it tells us if they potentially have drugs or not in their system.
See, the whole calling thing is a little different. Like in drug, because I do drug court, and in drug court we do have a color call system where the drug court clients have to call in every day, but it only tells them if they have to come in to do a drug test. So let's say client's color is red, it'll call, you call in, it'll say the color today is black or green or blue. Then it's not your day. But we don't do that for our office appointments. Our office appointments, we give it to them a month in advance. Depending on their risk level or any kind of special conditions, they're either seen once a month or bi-weekly or even once a week, depending on their risk level or any kind of special conditions that they have from the judge. So the fact that you guys do a kind of a color call system for just office appointments, that's different. I've never heard that before, but that's interesting. That's definitely very interesting. What are your requirements for the home contacts pre-Rona? Like, how often did you have to verify their address, do a pop-up on them?
We actually didn't go in the field at all for any of that. We were strictly in office when the pandemic first hit. All field work was called off. You were only in the office.
What is your field work requirements when there isn't a pandemic?
We really don't do a whole lot of field work. The only time we go out to field work is to verify an address, and once we do, it's done. We do go a lot of warrant looking. We check in a lot on the DV people, domestic violence, sexual cases, especially involving minors, making sure that there are no minors at that house. Or if we get a random tip of, John Doe is selling pills out of his basement, which we've had happen, is kind of like oh, well, let's go check that out.
So how long were you on the job before the Rona hit?
Hired in November, so.
Oh wow. So I think about March is when it really hit off. So you had about 5 months.
Yeah, 4 or 5 months.
How does the training work in Ohio? So when you first get hired, what kind of training do you guys undergo?
We go through the OPOTA certified firearms training, and we also do a various ohiocourt.edu classes on searching vehicles, searching a person, contacting home visits, searching a home, court etiquette, stuff like that. We also had to do the ORAS training. Have you heard of the Ohio Risk Assessment System?
No, but is it just like a general evidence-based risk management, risk assessment type thing? Like, I mean, every state has something. They call it different things. Yeah. I know back when I worked in juvenile, we had I can't remember the name of it now because it's been almost 3 years since I've done juvenile, but we had a risk assessment that we had to go through with the I think half of it we did with the juvenile, the other half we did with the parents, because clearly there'll always be a difference between what the juvenile will tell us and then what the parents will tell us. The juvenile, like, oh, I have no drugs problem at all, everything is good, I got all A's in school. And then you interview the parents, they're like, yeah, they're flunking every class and he smokes weed all day and just sits at home eating Doritos, something like that. So yeah, I mean, every state has different kind of risk assessment tools that they use. Tell us about what the risk assessment tool you guys use in Ohio.
It's the Ohio Risk Assessment System, also known as ORAS, and it kind of goes through their background, if they've ever been incarcerated or been on supervision before. And then it goes through their financial, are you working full time? How much free time do you have? And it's all scored out of 0, 1s, and 2s. And at the end of it, you have your final score, and the lower the number, the lower the risk level. And you got your moderates and your highs. But I mean, it goes through a whole various of questions about yourself, your past, and kind of your attitude towards life and your criminal thinking, if you have any.
So what do you envision things will look like for your office once, once hopefully the pandemic's over or the restrictions get lifted? What do you think how do you think offenders are going to adjust to that with going back to a normal?
That was a tough question because I don't know normal yet in that office.
You've known as the Rona.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Hopefully normalcy will come quicker than we think. And I can actually experience what normal is like. Being trained and everything over video has been a pain. I'm more of a hands-on person, especially with me being a courtesy supervision officer for other counties along with ICOTS. So I have a pretty large caseload that kind of got thrown at me really fast. I work a lot with the parole authority there in Ohio, adjacent counties, and even other states. So I actually just had to put a national warrant out yesterday. So that was the first time I had to do one of those, and I didn't know how to do it. Spitballed it.
Hey Eric, for all our listeners that do not know what ICOTS is, ICOTS, why don't you go ahead and explain to them what ICOTS is?
So it's the interstate compact offender tracking system, and what we kind of say is, it's one of those leave on vacation, come back on probation type deals, where let's say John Doe is residing in Ohio, but he goes to visit Florida for vacation and picks up B&E. I guess B&Es are popular on vacation. And so
who doesn't want to break in something while you're on vacation?
Right. I mean, I guess he wanted that surfboard. But so John Doe's in Florida is charged, convicted, and given 2 years of community control. But John Doe says, hey, I don't live in Florida, I live in Ohio. So at that point, Florida probation will put in a request to Ohio saying, hey, can John Doe be watched by you guys while he's on this case here? And Ohio could say a yay or nay, depending on circumstances of where is he actually living there? What kind of credibility do you have that he lives there and is going to be working there and resides there? And so Ohio would take him and watch him for the 2 years that Florida had him, and the rest is history.
Talk about rapport, building rapport, how it's different doing that during COVID versus, seeing your offenders more regularly and face to face.
It's definitely a little different, especially with the wearing the mask. Like in my jurisdiction, we have to wear a mask all the time. So in the office, you have to wear a mask, which we're not really seeing offenders in the office, but we can now. At first, we couldn't at all. Everything had to be in the field, and I think the reason why is because they didn't want any kind of any outbreaks in the office, and they have to pay people to come through and clean and disinfect. So they said nobody in the office, everybody out in the field. Only come to the office, put your notes in, go to your own individual office, close the door, put your notes in, do it like that. But now they are letting us allow some people back into the office. So if you have to do a drug test, which they're limiting to those who, the offenders that we do drug test, and then if there's like a safety issue where you don't feel comfortable going to that person's house because it's a little shady, there's a lot of people there, it might not be a safe environment, then you can require them to come to the office. But it is difficult because, like I said, we're all wearing a mask, so it's hard for the offender to really know what you look like because you're wearing a mask all the time. In addition, we do only time we make them take a mask off is when we're taking their pictures when they first get on probation. Then they have to take their mask off so we can take a picture of them for their file. Or if let's say they look drastically different than what's the photo that we have in the file. Let's say they cut their hair off or they grow a beard or something like that. Then we make them take a new picture and you got to take their mask off for that. But I think part of it also too is us not being able to go in their homes. really being able to look around, see what the residence looks like. We were kind of talking about this in one of our previous episodes, where you want to know, is the house dirty? What's the rapport with the offender and his family? And we're really missing a lot of that. And especially when we're going to their homes and we're seeing them outside, of course, there's always people around, and you have to constantly, pay attention to the offender for officer safety, but you also have to pay attention to your environment. Make sure there's nobody, trying to come up on you. So it's different. It's definitely different. And one of the things Eric was saying was about the judges letting a lot of people out of jail. I don't know how it was down in Texas, but where I'm at, they let a lot of people out of jail. Um, it was kind of like they just came in one day and they just emptied the jail out. And unless you were there for like a serious crime, like a murder or rape or something like that, they were just unsecuring bonds left and right. And then, of course, on the probation side, we're dealing with it because now they're getting out. It was unexpected. So it wasn't like they got out. Like someone was like, "Oh, hey, on this date, we're going to release a bunch of people." So we would go talk to them, say, "Hey, listen, when you get out, you need to come report. Hey, make sure I have your right address," or anything like that. It was like one day they were in the jail. Next day you get to work, you log in the computer, and you get alerts saying all these people were released. Now we're out there in the streets trying to find them, trying to go back to the last known residence, trying to get them to get into compliance, trying to get them to come report. And it's hard. A lot of them were locked up for a long time. Like Eric was saying, they want to go back to what they were doing, go back to the drugs they were using. So yeah, it's just different. It's different. How about you, Brittany? How in Texas? Were they emptying the jails out down there?
I mean, they did. Yeah, it's kind of similar situation as to what you described, and it was kind of weird that they weren't even locking people up who had active warrants, who were not previously incarcerated, but they had these probation violation warrants or new charges, and they just wouldn't arrest them. I'm like, dang, really? Y'all need to come get these people. It was tough.
Yeah, it was definitely tough because we would like arrest somebody in a violation and the magistrate would just give them unsecured bond. It's like we just did all this work, did all this paperwork, found a violation, getting a warrant, going out looking for them, got them, take them to the jail. You walk them in the back through the sally port, they walk out the front. I had a guy beat me back to my own office just to yell at me for locking him up.
Like, sir, why'd you waste my time? They just let me out anyways,
Right? I'm like, well, technically I didn't lock you up because they let you out. So technically, if you want to be technical, I didn't lock you up. But yeah, come see me next week. And of course, then he didn't. So we had to go through the cycle again. But what about you, Eric? Have you been able to build that professional relationship with what do you guys call them? Clients, offenders, defendants? What do you guys call them over in Ohio?
Yeah, just probationers.
Probationers. Have you been able to really build that relationship, that professional relationship where you kind of set the rules and kind of build some trust where they kind of let you in, let them know what their problems are? Have you been able to do that with the Rona?
Yeah, so I'm in a unique situation. I worked at the same county jail that I'm now at a probation officer at. So a lot of the guys that are on probation I knew from the jail. It was kind of funny seeing the people come in on probation. They look at me and I just kind of look at them. It's like, I know you remember me. Like, yeah, but what are you doing over here now? It's like upgrades. Okay.
Moving on up.
Right. But a lot of them, congratulated me. Were actually happy to see me in the probation side. Told me that, that jail wasn't where I needed to be. And, from the get-go, they're pretty open about everything because I already knew everything that they've done. I mean, they're in jail. I knew what they were charged with. So it was pretty cool to build that relationship pretty quick with a lot of them. They'll come in and kind of migrate towards my desk, which I'm not the most social person.
You're the favorite PO in your office, huh?
Depends. I'm also the one that gets all the warrants dropped at his desk. So no, sometimes not. It's like, you know him well. Yeah, you can get arrested him. You know him. It's like, Thanks.
So you handle ICOTS cases and what else?
Courtesies.
Okay, so when they come in, they come from another county and they live in your county.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Another one of those go on vacation, come back on probation.
How does it work for you when they're violating? Let's start with in the state. So let's say the county they came from, they came to your county to live, and they're violating. What's the process, or how do you deal with that?
Well, unfortunately, I can't arrest them without a warrant from the county they're on probation on. So just recently, one county, different people. I had a couple of their guys that didn't want to stop smoking weed, and the other one is playing the COVID system, which is remarkable how he does it. And I'll just have
What
to
does that
send them
What does
in.
that mean? Playing the COVID system?
Oh man, so he will go get tested for corona. After I caught him dropping dirty with Molly and ecstasy and weed and meth and you name it, he used it. And he went and got tested for corona. And it would come back negative, of course, but he was mandated to quarantine for 14 days. Well, on that last day of quarantine, he will go get tested again and get mandated to quarantine for 14 more days. And then eventually I lost all contact with him. And now I don't know where he's at.
I know a lot of vendors are doing that in my area too.
Yes. Yeah, there's
And,
there's definitely a lot of that.
his
I feel like
grandma
if I was
brings
on
the.
probation, I probably would have did it too, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
It's,
Oh, yeah.
it's like perfect.
I would have caught one of them $50 plane tickets to Florida and see ya.
See, that's what makes you a good PO, Brittany, because you think like them.
Hey, I'm just being real, I'm just being real.
I understand. All right. So you were saying that so if they have to get a they need a warrant from the other county. So how do you go about that process?
I talked to a probation officer of the county they have the case with. I'll talk to that probation officer and tell him, hey, John Doe isn't doing what I told him to do. Here's all of his positive tests. He's coming bi-weekly and he won't stop smoking dope. What do you want to do? Or, I'll do one of those like, what I want to do, but what do you want to do type scenarios at them. And of course, they're like, well, we'll put a warrant out for him. And I'll just tell them, all right, fax it over to me and I'll go get that taken care of.
Do you deal with any counties? I know when I used to do juvenile, we did a lot of courtesies because my county is south of Pittsburgh, and we get a lot of cases from Pittsburgh, which is clearly a larger city, a larger population, and we would deal with a lot of, hey, your person's messing up, and they'll be like, he's your problem now. Do you get any of that?
Yeah, I had one like that until the guy went back to their county and caught another trespassing charge and felonious assault for trying to run someone over. And kind of threw well, whose problem is he now? Card at her,
Exactly. They should have listened to you the first time you said the
Right.
violation report. Most people don't ever want those cases back. They like, once they're gone, oh, that's it. Don't call me, don't email me, none of that. I don't want to hear about it.
Unless
like
they
this.
die, don't email me.
How we wash our hands of him.
Right.
Yeah. This is still your case.
It's still your case, still on your docket. Okay, how about ICOTS? What's the violation process for ICOTS for those that don't know?
Well, I just had one recently. He disappeared on a receiving state, sentenced in Ohio, and we sent him to Indiana, and he just disappeared. Indiana couldn't find him anymore. So they requested to close the case due to absconsion. Absconsion is when you can't find them, they stopped reporting, they're just gone. And so I have to file an order to the judge for a national warrant along with suspending probation at said time, and then get back with Indiana and tell them, hey, the warrant's out, close the case, and I'll have to ask Indiana to take him back if we ever find him.
So you put a warrant out through NCIC?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. We got to get you in contact with Andrew out in Indiana. I'm pretty sure he'll go find them. He's
Oh
he's
yeah,
he's yeah, he's a 8 on the 2 hat scale.
Oh, really?
yeah.
He'll go get
Uh,
them for you.
that's what I need. I know when the pandemic lifts, they're already telling me that we'll probably be at 8 out of 10 on that scale. They kind of are getting all the warrants lined up and everything, and being the young guy there, they kind of hand that stuff off to me. I'm the youngest one there by 10 years.
Wow.
Don't you just love that? I love that for you, being the youngest around the office. That's like the best.
A new kid on the block. What can I say?
I was going to say I understand because back in PA working as a juvenile officer, when I came in, I was definitely one of the youngest officers, and it kind of seems like everyone kind of gets there, they get cushy, and they don't want to leave. And then of course, the longer they're there, then the less field work and warrants and searches, those kind of things they want to do. They just kind of want to slide on the scale from a 5 to a 4 to a 3 to a 1, and they
Yeah.
just want to kind of be cushy and just kind of deal with that stuff. So I
Yeah.
definitely understand being young and wanting to be out there. Um, how how does your department work with local law enforcement?
They will have your back regardless. There's been times where, because we don't have radios in the field, we just have our cell phones. So if things go south, you just have to hurry up and dial your city or county number and hope they pick up. So there was a time where that's happened, and we're in a house, and they say, well, he's in the basement going crazy. Well, what do you mean by crazy? Well, he has a knife and he's on meth. Great. So we called the city, and they were like, hey, we need a couple officers out here, now. And the next minute, 2 more officers showed up, and it worked out really well. No questions asked or anything. They just, I mean, as soon as we made the call, it seemed like sirens were flying to us. It was awesome to know that you got people like that on your side.
Now, was this a small town?
It's a pretty large city. About
Okay, okay. 'Cause I know back in PA, the jurisdictions I worked with, they were kind of small, and some were more bored than others. Where if we called them, I mean, you would get half the shift would come because they have
yeah,
nothing else to do. Um,
yeah.
but you said you had some bad experiences working with local law enforcement. Tell us about that.
I actually haven't had a bad one yet. I just know there's a lot of friction between the supervisors and brass between my department, the county, and the city.
Was there a situation or something that happened that caused this friction?
No, it's just kind of an ongoing thing. I know when I worked at the county, it just seemed like anybody the city brought in were just very upset about everything. And there would be times where the city officers were, kind of standing behind me as I'm trying to intake them, making gestures, or just being unprofessional and impolite and just really rude. Like, I understand that you may have hard time getting this guy in cuffs, or he's giving you attitude or problems or even physical. I get that, but you got to maintain that professionalism, and sometimes they don't always have it.
I don't know. I feel like there's more you want to tell us, and you're trying to hold back because I'm really trying to get to understand where this disconnect you guys have between your department and the locals. Is it because the locals have more expectations of you guys than what you guys are willing to do or able to do? Or is it, they've called upon you to help them with something and it just didn't go the way they expected?
We
Yeah.
just have we respect people a little bit better than what they do. So when we call them out, it's always a hit or miss on are they going to escalate it, or are they going to help us de-escalate it?
Okay. When you say respect with people, you're talking about the offenders.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's the difference. Kind of like what we're talking about in Brittany with our first episode. How actually think it was our second episode where a police officer might only interact with an offender maybe one time, and we got to interact with them, depending on the supervision level, once a week, twice a week, twice a month, once a month. We have to see them so much more. So we need to have that professional relationship, not only for our own safety,
Right.
because that professional relationship builds is an officer safety concern. If you treat somebody disrespectfully, you can't expect that when you're on their turf doing that home contact, verifying an address, that they're gonna, be pleasant with you. Where, like I said, the cops don't have to deal with that, but we do, because we're seeing them way more. We're going into their homes way more than they are.
Right.
So definitely. But do you feel that if you it feels weird saying pick up the phone and make that call, because I've always had a radio, even in juvenile, and here where I'm at now, we've always had radios. But if you make that call, do you feel that they're gonna come?
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's one thing. No matter how much friction is between anybody, they're going to come.
Is there a reason? Is there a reason you guys don't have radios, or is it a budget thing? Is it they don't feel you need it?
I think more of a budget thing, and we won't use it that often. Like you said, it's a lot of old schools in there that get comfortable with that 2 or 3 out of 10. So we don't do as much field work as we could. But like my partner and I, he actually came from the jail with me, and we do a lot of stuff together. If he goes out, I'm going with him, and vice versa. We just go together all the time. And we've already been talking about, hey, we got to at least get some walkie-talkies or something, because when I'm standing in the backyard and you're in the front, can't see each other. We've had some times where, actually just a couple of weeks ago, I knock on the front door and he's standing in the back trying to verify an address, which turned out not being the right address. And I found out the hard way with the guy yelling at me and trying to get in my 6-foot space. He wasn't social distancing. And, I'm sitting there like, oh, I'm here by myself. If something happens, my partner's going to find out 10 minutes later after he comes out of the backyard. So, it's kind of like radio would make me feel a little more comfortable, even if I could just talk to who I'm out there with, not necessarily the whole county.
Oh, wow. What about you, Brittany? Do you guys have radios? I know you guys never had much for safety, but do you guys have a radio?
In the beginning, we did not. We just had our cell phones, but a couple years into me being there, we did get radios. Only we did have those two. Yeah, we had radios in the car, and we had the little handheld radios to take to the door or whatever. Okay. So we basically would check in when you get to your offender's house over the radio to let dispatch and everybody know that you're arriving. And then whenever you leave, you check back in, let them know I'm leaving and going to the next spot, basically. So yeah, I think it did feel a lot better having that as opposed to before when we just had our cell phones and our partner, because you see me, and then I would go out in the field with another female. I'm like, I didn't feel all that secure. I'm just not gonna lie to you, but it felt a little bit better to have those radios. Oh, how's the pay in your area?
The pay is a lot better than where I was at. I'm happy with it. Definitely above average.
Above average for probation officers across the country, or above average for jobs in your area?
What's the average across the country?
I found that in talking to so many officers across the East and the West and all the coasts, that average is like 40,000 or 38,000 starting.
Yeah, we're slightly above average.
Okay. That's good. And you should be, because it sounds like you do a lot of work, like a whole lot.
Yeah, I try. I might as well work hard. I might as well work hard before the blood pressure catches up. So.
Yeah. So kudos to you for getting it done.
Thank you.
Especially being so young and so new to the job and putting all the work in and showing the old timers what they're missing.
I try. I think that's one advantage I do have with the young probationers is I don't give them a dad talk per se.
Yeah.
I can talk to somebody in my generation more level than somebody that was been in there for 20 years already.
Yeah, exactly.
Then
You're
on
more
the other
you
side of
relate
the
more.
coin, the older offenders, they don't want to talk to you because you're young. So it's like,
Oh, I can tell you, I can't tell you how many times I've gotten, oh, I've got kids older than you. What do you know? And it's just kind of like, here we
yeah.
go.
I know these conditions. I know these violations. That's what I
I
know.
always, I always tell them, well, I mean, how old are you when you had your first charge? 21. Well, I'm 25 and haven't had one, so I kind of hope you'd listen.
Exactly.
No, I'm looking out for your best interest. I don't know why you're mad at me.
Because you're the only face they see in that moment. So they have to let it out on you.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
They tell them I didn't put you on probation, and you getting on
yeah,
probation's on you. I'm just the middleman.
yeah. That's what I tell them. I tell them, we don't have a draft or anything. I didn't ask you to be here. I just woke up one day and your file was on my desk.
Yep.
Exactly.
That's it. And
Um.
that's all.
Now, I remember you saying that you wanted to be a deputy or a cop. How do you feel now, a year in to being a probation officer, dealing with these two hats? Do you still feel like you kind of want to do that, or are you happy with your decision?
There's some days I do, but my overall goal was to be a community officer. I even said in college when I was pursuing to be a deputy or LEO of some sort that I wanted to be involved with the community. Um, I don't know if you guys know him, but like Tommy Norman, very popular on Instagram. That was someone I try to model myself after for the longest time. He's in touch with the community. People see him and feel safe. They see him and feel that he can be a positive change in the community. And that's really what I was striving for. And as I got my job as a probation officer, I found myself as a good fit of, I have more influence to change in this position than I would just on the road. Because when you're on the road, you don't always run into people that want to change. Not saying that everyone on probation wants to, neither, but you have a better chance of finding somebody that does.
And that's the ultimate goal to be that change agent. Um, and I just want to ask you, what equipment are you guys issued?
Vest, handcuffs, and duty weapon.
No non-lethal.
No, unfortunately,
Okay. So
but
you got
I don't miss the smell of OC spray.
so basically you go hands or gun, ain't nothing in between.
Yeah, and I'm more likely going to go hands first with my previous training.
I understand. Understand.
I always say if I can go my whole career without ever having to draw my weapon, that's going to be the perfect career.
Oh man, trust me, you won't get there. Um, I mean, when you're doing searches, you're always gonna get that one knucklehead that's gonna try something. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
um, I think I've drawn my gun more for doing clearing buildings and doing searches than for actual possible use of deadly force or anything like that.
So, what is going to be the overall goal of these podcasts?
I think the ultimate goal is kind of what we started out with day one, which is building this community supervision, community corrections, probation, parole, pretrial services, juvenile probation family, um, where we can, you know, teach others that are already in the field about how things are done in different places. I've learned so much from this podcast, just talking with, absconder officers, talking to mental health officers, talking to sex offender officers. I've learned a lot myself. And I definitely enjoy being able to share my experiences with the family too. But I think the ultimate goal is just to keep building that relationship, um, keep being a conduit for others to learn, to hopefully encourage others that want to come and join us.
You can't be stealing my thunder, Chris. Okay. I have a YouTube channel. It's called Your Favorite PO. Okay. And on that channel, I give tips and little tricks on how to get that interview and all of that stuff. So I'm gonna need you to go check it out. Okay. Thank you. Your Favorite PO on YouTube. Yes, that was a shameless plug, and no, I'm not sorry about it.
Oh, yeah, but you lean more towards being on the offender side. We're kind of trying to bring people into the community.
I'm trying to bring people into the community too.
But yeah, that's really our goal, and hopefully we're getting there. We brought you into our family, and we appreciate you, Eric, for volunteering to do this interview. Giving us your time. We appreciate the fact that you were so candid and open, and we hope you stick with us. We hope you don't leave us to go, be a deputy somewhere, sit in a car in the freezing cold somewhere. Uh, we hope you stay with us and continue to be that change agent that these offenders need. Eric, we appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, make sure you tell all your coworkers, get them just to subscribe. Definitely get them to leave some comments. Get them to follow us. I know they're old; they probably don't have Instagram, but definitely try to get.
They probably got MySpace.
Yeah.
Hotmail.
Hold on now, don't hate on Hotmail.
Hotmail's still around. Does that still work?
Now it's all Gmail.
Yeah, Hotmail did become Gmail.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, Eric. Thank you, man. We appreciate you.
No problem. Y'all stay safe.
Hey, you too, man. Bye.
That was a great interview with Eric. I'm so happy he was able to be here with us. We did learn a lot from him. Being the newbie in the office, I know how that feels. It was kind of recent for me. But I want you guys to leave any comments, any questions that you have in the comment section below, because for next week's episode, we are answering everybody's questions on air. So please tune in Wednesday, same time, same place. Chris?
Yes, definitely thank you again to Eric. We appreciate him. We also are up on Spotify too, under the Two Hats podcast. So definitely check us out there. We'll continue to post to YouTube. And as you guys can see, it's audio only, so it's easy if you're in the car. Just when you get that notification, just turn us on. Listen to us on the way to work. Listen to us when you're in the office doing your typing up your violations. Definitely just hear us out. And like I said, we're on Spotify now, so you can also listen to us on that platform. So thank you again.
If you're interested in being featured on our Instagram page, Two Hats Podcast, please send us a direct message on Instagram or leave a comment down below with your email address, and we will get back to you.
All right, thanks, family. You guys be safe out there. Stay away from the Rona.